This my presentation is my style and from my own experience. I hope it will be helpful to some of you. And giving a scientific presentation is many kind of techniques or tips. For example, about language, we use English or our natural language. For example, the body language. For example, the point, how to use the point. Here I just focused on the slides. The slides you just see here, and to make it clear and easy to understand, I will take a simple example about the plant model for robot system in greenhouse. Usually when I design a presentation, first step I need a manuscript. In this step, I focused on the content of my research work, about the background, about the model, about the experiment, about the data analysis, and the discussion also include the conclusions. And secondly, I modify the manuscript into good presentation slides. And when the slide is ready, there are still other things need to be done before we come to the conference room, before we give our lectures to the audience. It's step 3, pre-projection. Sorry. Firstly, let's talk about the manuscripts. Usually when you give research presentation to the audience, we need to make it clear why we do this, and secondly, how to do this, and finally, what do we get from our work. It's many 3 points in our slides. So, as for the first one, why we do this? This part is linked to many elements. For example, the background overview, what other people did, what some people are doing, and what's the problem that still needs to be studied, and then give our research goal, what I want to do. And sometimes we should give the scientific or technical significance of our work. This is the first part, why we do this. After that, we should explain how to do it. It depends on the subject or field. A different subject, different field have a different model. For example, in control area, they need model. In experimental science, maybe they need a method. That's depend on the subject or depend on the field. And next, object or material we used in our experiment. And then we come to the experiment or simulation. Some field needs simulation. Of course, after experiment we got that. We need to analyze all of that and have discussion in detail. This is the second part. How do we do our research work? And finally, we give the result. What do we get from our research work? Mainly is composed of conclusions, and sometimes we give the next research plan in the future. And this is the core outline of when I'm preparing my manuscript of the slide. We can see a very simple manuscript. Okay. Just to take a glance, not in detail. Outline and background. This is about the robot system. This is not real. Don't take it serious. There are many techniques can be used in rocket operation system in greenhouse. Here we focus on a solar system. As for a solar system, it's easier in ideal conditions. We can calculate the distance between the speaker and the microphone. For example, I'm the speaker now, and this is the microphone, this is the receiver. We can get a distance between me and the microphone just by the velocity of the voice and the time it needed to from me to the microphone. It's a very ideal condition. But in greenhouse, many facts will affect the accuracy of the mathematical model. So in my research, I want to focus the last one, ground. If there is something between the speaker and the microphone, the voice cannot come from my situation to the microphone directly. So the distance may be changed by calculation. I want to see what happened when there is something in greenhouses ground between the speaker and the microphone. This is the research goal. I need to eliminate the effect of clouds on the solar system. We need a new model to calculate the real distance. And secondly, how we do this? We get some assumptions, and these assumptions we get this model. Also, we get this model. This is not real. I still not get this model. Just in function like this. And when we get this model, is it okay for calculating the distance? I don't know. And no one knows. So we need to experiment. We need to design the experiment. We need to list all the instruments we need in the experiment, and we need to inform the players where we did our experiments and all the parameters listed in tables. After the experiment, we get data. We need data analysis. So this is a table about that. And we can change the data from table to figures to show it clearly. And it's like this. And we have some discussions with many items here, just listed here, not in detail. And finally, we give the main conclusion. And this is a manuscript. I think you have found it. It's not good for presentation. Many things are improper in this slide. For example, this slide, the word, text are too small. Some people cannot see it clearly, especially people sitting on the last row. Yes, we have that screen on the back wall, but ordinarily in conference rooms we do not have a back screen. We have only one screen or two screens. So if the word is too small, some people cannot read it. And for example, in this book, this is about the experiment yet, but maybe we cannot see it clearly. And about this tab, all the characters are too small. They're quite small, we cannot see it clearly. And about the background, every page has a different background. That's not good for scientific presentation. So let's get back to the next step, step 2. The first step is about the manuscript. Second step, we need to modify our manuscript. Actually, in presentation slides, there are many elements we need to pay more attention. Here are the 7 main elements that are important in scientific slides. The first one is preface. In preface, we need a speech title. We need to inform our name and application, that, and sometimes we need a logo of our university or company. As it is two. The left one is the manuscript, and the right one is the final one. You can see it clearly. Of course, the right one is better. And secondly, about the background. I think many people know this, that we use single and unique background in the whole slides, not changing it all the time. So it should be simple. A background creates a space, a big and wide space for the content. And it should be in light color. Black is not. Here is consistency. We should not change the background all the time. Every slide have different background. It's not good. When people come to the conference room to attend your lecture, they want to focus on your content, not the background. So if you change the background all the time, maybe they will be attracted by the background, then cannot understand what you are talking, and then they cannot read what you write in the slides. Sometimes we need logos on every slide. And just remember, we need slide number on every page. See, this is to compare it. About the text, actually text is the most important thing on every slide, but we should use them as less as possible. Do not use too much text in one slide. And we use keywords or phrases, not for long, complicated sentences. If the text is too long, the size is small, and some people cannot read it. So the font name for projection is recommended is Whitman and Arial, not Times New Roman. Times New Roman is good for printing or publication, but not good for projection. And the font size, make sure every word is size no less than 24 fonts, to make sure every people in the room can see it clearly. And if it's needed, we can make it bold to make it even more clear to be seen. Sometimes, if you want your audience to keep their attention with your voice, we can use fade in and fade out techniques. For example, I'm talking about the text in this slide. I fade out all other items and keeps the text in black font. So you know I'm talking about the text. So these two background about the model and robot system in greenhouse. The left one has too much words in one slide, and the right one just use keywords, so we can see it clearly. Maybe just a glance we know what I'm talking about in this slide. This is too much words. If you want to know in detail, you need to read one by one, and you will not follow my voice. So I think the right one is best. And the symbols. Actually, if you have submit papers to international journals or international conference, you must know some rules about the symbol, figure, and tables. As for symbols, it should be in the same size with text, not too big or not too small. And it should be italic for variables, and normal for constant and unit. As you see, just this is the distance between the speaker and the microphone. They are variables, so they are in italic, and the velocity and the time is variable, so they are in italic. And here, the unit needs the seconds a unit, so they are in normal font. When we get experimental data, we need tables to show the experimental data, but be careful using table because we have too much data in even one experiment. So the table should be stable and less data. Do not get all your data in one table. And we should emphasize on quite or important data. Of course, every table have title and have that calculus. Make sure the size is as big as possible. If it's possible, we should replace table with figures. This is just this table. I just show this table. Too much dash in one table. So there are no space for one character. It's very small. Some people cannot see it. So if we get this table in the slide, maybe some people will get confused. What will you show us? I can see nothing. So if it's possible, we should replace the table with figures. And figures is good for experimental depth, dot, and line. So for the depth, dot, and line, it should be clear and big. And for a background grid, it should be light and thin to make a comparison. And in figures, sometimes we have title, text level, sometimes with legend. Be sure that all these elements, the size is as possible, as big as possible. We see these two pictures. This is the former one in manuscript, and this is a modified one in final version. You can see these two. It's big. Too many zeros here. Useless, and the character size too small. Maybe people cannot see it clearly, and that dot is too small, can hardly be seen. So we changed it to another form. In this one, it is clear to see. The size, the character size, the dot size, and the line thickness, it's easier to be seen. Animation or movies. Sometimes we need animation to show some principle, for example, in mechanical movement, for process, or for experiment. But animation or movies are not good for text or symbols. This is not good. When it is needed, we use animation. When it is not needed, don't add too much animation in the scientific slides. Now we see the, sorry. Now you can see the final version of the slide. Just take a look, not in detail. Outline, background, and research board. Mathematical model, experiment, discussion, and experiment, that table, that figures, and discussions. Just list all the items we need to discuss. We explain every item with our oral voice, not write or text in the slide. and continue. It's okay. It's the second step. And till now, the slides are ready to be projected, but there are still another things need to be done before we go to the conference room. The first one is we need a speech script. Most of us are not native speaker of English. Sometimes I find it's very difficult to express myself freely in English. So we need to write down all the words we want to speak in the conference room and practice. Practice with your speech script, with the slide, with your body language, with the point. Sorry. And then we need to check our slide format. Most of us using Microsoft's operating system, but some people use Mac operating system. So we have different file format. I attended several conferences. Usually they provide Microsoft operating system. If you have a different system, maybe your file cannot be opened in that computer. So we need a PDF version of your slides. And finally, we need to check on spot. Before the session begins or in the best time, copy your file to the computer and check it whether it works well. If there's something wrong, maybe we should use our own computer to show the project. Okay. No matter whatever you do, when you're giving a speech, you want to explain your work well. You want all the audience to understand you. So before you go to the conference room, make sure that your slides are clear to see and easy to be understood, simple and direct. Do not use too difficult words or complicated sentences, and explain profound theories and work in simple daily life language. I have said this presentation is from my own experience of my own style. Maybe some people have other skills as tips. So there must be something missed. So please supplement. Thank you.
Question? May use the template. Could you show us the graph?
This one?
Yes. This is a little small letter. And how many points is appropriate letter on graph? That is 24 points usually.
This one?
Not graph.
This one?
Yes.
It's 40.
40. That's a 40.
40 points. This is 22.
22. And how about the graph?
Not 22. 32.
32. Then how about the graph?
Maybe this is 14. 14.
It's small or a little bigger is there?
This is a small one.
Small.
Small.
A little small. So
Yeah.
little one. This is how many?
This is 18.
18. Yeah, would you send us that you want to Shanghai? Maybe.
But
Yeah.
someone in public.
Yes. that's better too. Someone is always small. The font is very good. Font is very good. So, yeah, idea. This font name.
If you have to post many data to explain your theories, so sometimes it's impossible to make it into just show some data. So what will you do in class?
Just to show some important data in the slide. All the data in your paper. If they want to know detail, they will check your paper. It's impossible in the slide to show all the data.
About this I usually because I don't like the background. I usually include the background, but I think what do you think? Which one is better? Which background or the background? Or no background?
No background. Actually,
For that figure.
for this is like background.
No,
It's
not
colored.
background. This figure, the dump.
I know. Only this part, the color. Yeah, the color. We do, sometimes we don't need this color here, but this slide background is white. If this is white, I think it's not.
So depend on the
background.
Anything else? But once you follow his way, maybe your presentation file will be much improved. Okay, thank you very much.